Alright, so I'm gonna go over all these playing games real quick. Give you my thoughts on all of them. So our first one we had here was the Hawks and the Heat. The Hawks, they performed better than I thought they would. Their offense looked pretty free flowing. Everyone was getting their touches. Trey Young, he looked like he kind of took his trade rumors to heart. And he didn't have an amazing game, but he had an efficient game, a pretty good game. And he didn't really have to do everything. Like the whole team stepped up. I would say though, if there was like one star or like two stars, I should say, besides Trey Young that really stepped up, it was definitely Clint Capella and Keke Ankangwu, because they just completely destroyed the glass. They crashed the glass. I think I saw a statistic where it's like they had like double the rebounds that Bam could get. So they really stepped up. They destroyed the Heat. I'm gonna be honest. I did not see that in like my fortune, but they destroyed the Heat. They led by 24 at one point. I've written down here. I'm looking at my notes. Um, well, everyone got their touches, and they played a pretty good brand of basketball. Now, what really surprised me more than the Heat was, or more than the Hawks, was just how bad the Heat was. The Heat, man, I don't know what happened to the Heat. Jimmy Butler was so bad in this game by eye test. He just missed some point blank layups that you would expect him to knock him down, especially in like the playing game. I know that the Heat offense hasn't been that great this year, but God, that was it was I was embarrassed. I got secondhand embarrassment from that. Um so like I was talking about, Bam Adebayo got abused on the boards. He could not grab a rebound. He got significantly by like 30 rebounds out rebounded. Um, Adebayo kinda he went invisible too. Like Jimmy Butler couldn't get any points, and Adebayo he didn't have a great game either. Um, but out of the woodwork for the Miami Heat, you know who stepped up? Kyle Lowry, man. He rose from the grave, man. Came back from the dead, and he stepped up, and he had like 30 points, like 30, 33 points, um, when nobody else could get it done. But they still lost. But he was like the only reason they were in this game at all was Kyle Lowry. Um, Tyler Hero was kind of fine. He was chilling. He knocked down a couple jumpers. He in the right out of half, he came in with like this kind of mid-range action where he would like go down the middle, then go to the left and do like a little floater or like mid-range pull-up thing that they did two or three times. Um, but no one else really stepped up. Cody Zeller didn't see the floor. Kevin Love, man, has been horrible for them. Kevin Love was on the floor for like 3 or 4 minutes and just got destroyed. Like it was back to back, like cooking Kevin on defense, and then Jimmy was driving down the right side on offense and passed to Kevin Love for a wide open three, and he just missed everything. He hit the backboard but didn't touch the rim at all. So that's a pretty convincing win for the Hawks. I think this is kind of like an outlier. I don't really think they're going to be able to definitely beat Boston in the playoffs. Um, but if you're a Hawks fan, you like to see this. You'd like to make the playoffs. So that's kind of my thoughts for this one. So for our next play-in game, we had the T Wolves and the Lakers. Now this one was probably more interesting. I would say the Hawks and the Heat game was more interesting because I just was not expecting to see that Heat meltdown at all. But I can see how people said this one was more interesting. Um, so obviously there was no Jaden McDaniels with his broken hand or Rudy Gobert because he got suspended. But the T Wolves' interior defense was still pretty solid. Like Cat cleaned up the interior better than I thought he would be able to. If I'm not mistaken, he had 2 or 3 blocks in that game. And Kyle Anderson, I think I remember him having like a chase down block, either him or Cat. So they held down the interior better than I thought they would do. Um, the T-Wolves defense was kind of impressive in the first half. They were forcing a lot of like turnovers in the very beginning, um, and that led to some Carl Anthony Towns like fadeaway jumpers and just like crafty layups he had. Cat in this game was just absolutely like insane. I've like he was cooking, man. But he after the first half it kind of simmered off a little bit. Like the first 2 quarters he was going crazy, and then like I think he got in foul trouble a little bit with Anthony Davis, and he had to come out of the game. It seemed like the T-Wolves were playing a lot harder than the Lakers were. I'm not really sure why. The Lakers sometimes just look like they're tired. Or they don't even really want to be there. It seems like they, if this was like a real like playoff game or like a if you lose this you go home, they would play a little harder. But I think because they had like another chance if they didn't win this one, they didn't play as hard as they could have. But for the Lakers, luckily for them, Anthony Edwards was nowhere to be seen in this game. He played like half an hour and had nothing to show for it. He had like 4 points. It was just an absolutely terrible game for Anthony. He had like missed six missed 3 pointers, um, which sucks. I wouldn't be surprised if they said he had an injury of some sort during this, because he just did not seem like himself at all. But Carl was there to kind of pick up the slack that Anthony couldn't in this game, and Mike Conley came in with like 6 3-pointers, which helped a lot to make up the deficit that they had. They controlled the game pretty well. The T-Wolves did for the beginning. For the Lakers, we had that D'Angelo Russell in this game. Just he did not show up either. Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell were just no shows in this game. He had like I think it was like 1 of 8 3-pointers, maybe zero of 8, somewhere around there. Not very good. Um, so he was benched. This game it went to overtime. Spoiler alert! In the fourth quarter, he was benched for Dennis Schroeder, which is probably a good idea. For the Lakers, I don't have a lot to say. Uh, at the very end, Los Angeles, they had some clutch stops, um, which kind of forced a Minnesota choke. Even though the fourth quarter of this game was horrible basketball, nobody can make a point. Yeah, it was a big Minnesota choke. Now, at the very end of this game was kind of very questionable for Anthony Davis. So Dennis Schroeder hits a 3-pointer and puts the Lakers up by 3, and the Wolves have like 5 seconds left. Not even 5 seconds left. It was like 2 or 3 seconds left, and they pass it to Mike Conley, who granted has been hot, but Anthony Davis comes in and he fouls Mike Conley on the 3-point shot, and which was like, what are you doing, Anthony Davis? Just jump straight up. Don't jump into him, man. So Mike Conley goes to the line and hits all 3 and goes to overtime. But this game in overtime was pretty bad. Like the Lakers just seized control completely, and Minnesota just kind of looked tired and just like went home. So probably my favorite play-in match of the night, or not of the night, of the whole tournament, is this Bulls and Raptors game. It's kind of the tale of two halves, really. The first half was all Raptors. They were I think that, the Raptors bench is like mostly made up of just wings, and I think they were really able to bother the Bulls with their length. Pascal Siakam got off to a really hot start. He was kind of their leading scorer for a while. Fred VanVleet was shooting pretty well from three. Um, Gary Trent wasn't great, but everyone else was cool. Scotty Barnes was cool. OG Anunoby was cool. Everyone was fine. And then the second half rolled around, and it was kind of Zach LaVine's show from there on. The Bulls were down 19 at half, but then Zach LaVine kind of took over with 39. DeMar DeRozan was cool. Alex Caruso hit a couple 3-pointers, some timely 3-pointers. Um, and they were just barely able to pull this one out. And a large part of them probably being able to come back is DeMar DeRozan's daughter. Every time the Raptors would shoot a free throw, DeMar DeRozan, I think her name is, would just scream at the top of their lungs, and she might have had a legitimate like defensive presence because they missed half of their three. God, I can't talk. Free throws. They attempted 36 and only knocked down 18. And even if they knocked down like 5, 6, 7 more of those, the Raptors probably would have won this game. But it was just a pretty huge meltdown by the Raptors in the second half. So this Pelican OKC game, I thought for sure that the Pelicans were gonna win because they've been here before. They've done this. They did this last year. Even without Zion, I thought for sure they would get it done. But I have to say that the way that like OKC stepped up was pretty incredible to watch. So we'll start off with OKC. Um, Shea, I would say he didn't really play a great part in this, especially the first half. Shea was like probably had like 6 points, maybe 6, 8 points around that area. Um, but everyone else on the team really stepped up, and by everyone else I mean Josh Giddey and Lou Dort. They both had like 20 each, and Lou Dort was like lights out from three. He had like 5 3-pointers. Josh Giddey, he had a lot too. He had like 22 points and probably around 8 assists. So solid from them. The J Dubs or J Dub and Jalen Williams, because there's two of them, which shouldn't be allowed. Two people with the same name on the same team should not be allowed. But J Dub and Jalen Williams, they didn't have great games, but they were still all right. Um, so OKC, they were fine. They really pulled away at the end. Um, but the Pelicans really should have won this. I'm gonna be honest. Valanciunas really was feasting the whole night. He didn't have anyone that really could guard him. Bi was doing his thing. He kind of like Lou Dort kind of had him in the torture chamber a little bit sometimes, but he was still getting kind of the shots he wanted. He had a crazy 3-pointer at the end with like his hips away and his legs were all in the air. He was trying to get a foul at the end, but he got this crazy 3-point shot. CJ McCollum, he kind of sold the game, I'll be honest. He has been like pretty bad this year, especially this game. It was just awful. Trey Murphy had a couple 3-pointers. He was good. And I'd say Herb Jones, he played pretty good defense on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Kind of like held him to that third quarter. Well, not the third quarter, but second half specifically. Like he was really a non-factor. And it really sucks to see this Pelicans team without Zion. I said Grizzlies, which was pretty idiotic. But I think that next year, if Zion stays healthy, this Pelicans team is going to be a problem to worry about. They almost won this game against one of the probably the brightest young core in the whole league. So I'm not really about worry. I'm more worried about the Pelicans with Zion than I am worried about OKC. So that is the end of um. Let's see. It says Thursday. No, the end of Wednesday night's play-in. So the second round of the play-in, you could say, um, it was all right. This Heat and Bulls game wasn't great. The Bulls kind of just like, I don't want to say they kind of fell over and died, but it's like they just don't. Their offense isn't that good, and it's not gonna like get them anywhere. Everyone was fine, but there was no outstanding performances from anyone. I would say Zach LaVine like came back down to earth after that 39 piece. They didn't have DR DeRozan, so obviously they were gonna lose. What were we thinking? Now on the other side, Jimmy Butler, he these play-ins have been rough for Jimmy Butler, man. I don't know. He was missing some point blank layups I know Jimmy Butler can make, but he was kind of bailed out. Well, not him, but the whole Heat team was kind of bailed out by Max Strus, who hit like 6 3-pointers this game and got him into the playoffs. I'm legitimately not sure if they would have made the playoffs because as bad as like the Bulls were, the Heat were right there with them, man. They were both struggling. So not a lot to say about this one, but it was I don't know. I almost thought that the Bulls were gonna win because the Heat, man. Tyler Hero struggled. Kevin Love, it wasn't great. Jimmy Butler was not great either. Bam was awful too. So no one really stepped up. Well, I'm Jimmy. When I say Jimmy Butler had a good game or a bad game, he technically had a good game. He had like 31 points, but it was just bad efficiency. And the eye test, man, it was so bad. He just missed layups right at the rim. I'm like, is this the same Jimmy Butler? Is this a Skinwalker Butler? Like, what happened? Now, probably the last and the least playing game was this Thunder and Wolves game. It was just, I don't have a lot to say about it. It was a complete blowout. It was like a 20-point blowout. I guess we'll start with the T Wolves here. Anthony Edwards looked a lot better. He had a fine night. Carl Anthony Towns, he didn't have as crazy a night, but still fine. You can tell Rudy Gobert being back in the lineup helped with their defense a lot. Um, Everyone kind of just came to play. Mike Conley hit some three-pointers, some timely three-pointers. And on the OKC, it was mostly more than the Timberwolves. It was the OKC side. Now Shea was fine, whatever, but Josh Giddey was like 2 of like 11 or 21. Just I think it was 21. He just had some pretty horrible efficiency. Lou Dort didn't have it the second night with his 3-point shooting, and no one else really stepped up except the Shea. And they had an amazing season, but it ended at the hands of the Timberwolves and the GOAT, Rudy Gobert. So that's kind of my play-in recaps, everything. Comment it if you agree. I'm gonna post my playoff predictions and then my recaps every day.